Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and I'm here at NAMTA with Ranger, ready to share my brand new solar sprays with all of you. These are 6 new rainbow colors of spray, and the really awesome part about them is that they're a clear, translucent spray, and when they go on top of your project, they're going to kind of shift and give you a really beautiful mica shine. On black cardstock, they're super colorful when you tilt it in the light, and on white cardstock they're beautiful because it doesn't look like much until you tilt it, and then it kind of packs a punch with all of that shine. It's incredible. So let me walk you through a couple different techniques on how to use solar spray on your projects. So I'm going to start off by going in with the black cardstock. This is Ranger's black cardstock. It's super smooth and got kind of a velvety finish, which is really nice. I'm going to go in with a stencil from my line called In Bloom. This is a layering stencil, so it has a bunch of different layers if you want to layer it up with like inks. Here, I'm just going to go in with one of the stencils. I always encourage, if you have layering stencils, you can just use one of the layers by itself, and that's a great way to use them. And I always say this is where my exercise comes in. I'm going to burn a couple calories here. You have to make sure to shake these sprays up because they have a mica that kind of sits on the side. So it'll either sit on the side or the bottom depending on how you store them. But you want to shake that up because you don't want that to go into the sprayer and clog it. So again, I just get my little workout in here.
All right.
Right? I burned a lot of calories this weekend just shaking these sprays. So you want to just shake them up to make sure that everything's kind of mixed together in there. And then once it's all mixed, you're ready to go in and do your spray. So whenever I spray on my project, I like to move the spray bottle as I go. It helps to get a nice clean spray and not get puddles of color that will seep underneath it. If you want a thicker layer, of course you could put more spray down on the surface, but to keep the spray bottle moving, it really helps to get a nice even coverage. And I'll just go in and spray a couple colors. So I went in with Cross My Heart, and I used Overheated, which is that orange. Then I used Golden Hour. Here I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Crocodile Tears. I had a lot of fun naming these. And then I'm going in with Beluga, and I'm gonna spray that down. So kind of get like a rainbow effect all the way across. And there is another color called Royal Flush, which I'll show in just a second. You can lift this guy right off and check that out. It doesn't even look like a ton until it's dry. I like to heat set it. You don't have to though, you could just let it dry. And once that's dry, the mica shine is really going to come to life, and it really gives you that incredible mica shine. And it's super cool because on black cardstock, like those colors really come to life and pop off the cardstock and give you that amazing shine and depth to it. It's so awesome. And then I like to take this too, and I'll spray this down just a little bit more to get a little bit more liquid on the surface. And then I like to take another piece of my black cardstock, since there's extra spray, and I'll just flip this over and place it right down on my surface. Now, I like to leave this down onto my cardstock and I let it dry on there. You don't want to do this with paste or anything like that because the paste is going to dry and to really harden. This kind of still stays wet on the stencil because it's non-porous, and so I'll leave that to dry. If you pull it off too soon when you're using like a background like that, you're not going to get the impression that you want, but if you leave it on there, it gives you that really beautiful look. If you pull it off too soon, it'll kind of puddle all the color to one side and you don't want that. So I leave it on there and you get a beautiful look. Now with a background like this, let me show you how to create that. So I'm gonna go in here and use my brand new stamp. This one's called Typewriter. I love this because it's got kind of like a poem written throughout it. So if you want to, you can cut out different lines of the text. It's like kind of encouraging and a beautiful poem. You can use that for art journaling and things like that, which I think is awesome. Or you can pull out different words if you want to. But then also it's great because you can use it as a full background just for texture. And I think texture is super important for a background when you want to kind of build up the layers. So I'm gonna go in with some archival ink. Now to stamp this down and add the texture, I'm just gonna take the archival ink and just swipe it across the surface like this, instead of stamping it down to get a full coverage. This is gonna give me a less even coverage across the surface, and that's just what I want. So, but I like this stamp that it's not distressed because you could use this as just regular font and maybe do heat embossing and keep it clean and simple. But I also love the opportunity that if you want to, you could give it that distressed look by swiping it across the stamp to get less color. And then it kind of skips out here and there, and it gives you a really beautiful texture in the background. But I love this stamp because it's like, there's so many words and nobody's gonna try to read it, but it just adds a great texture to your project. So then I'm gonna go in and just do a little bit of spraying. Now, it's your choice whether you want to spray through a stencil or just spray directly down onto the cardstock. I'm gonna spray right onto the cardstock, but you could spray like another pattern over top of this too, which would be really cool. And I'll just go in here and just spray a couple areas with color. I'll go in with a little bit of Cross My Heart. Then I'll go in with a little bit of Royal Flush. And then I'll go in with a little bit of golden hour and just spray this down in some of the open areas. Beautiful. And then I'll heat set this again to let it dry. It dries pretty quickly with the heat tool. I like this heat tool too. It's the Ranger heat tool. It disperses the heat a little bit more evenly. So instead of like an embossing tool where it's going to really blow kind of focused air on there, this is going to more evenly heat the surface. Now I do also want to point out that with Stark White cardstock, which is my cardstock from my line, the Stark White cardstock takes the ink a little bit differently. It's not coated, so it's really great for ink blending because you're gonna get like a really bold color. But when it comes to sprays, instead of giving you like a more mottled kind of watercolor look like this, the spray tends to seep into the cardstock right away. So it's gonna dry a lot quicker. That can be your benefit or your downfall. So if you want to, you can always use a different kind of cardstock, like a watercolor cardstock if you want to get that more mottled look. But this is cool because it gives you a more smooth, even coverage across the surface of that shine. It's not as mottled. And then also if you go in with a stencil on white cardstock and you spray that right through, it's gonna give you a cleaner line because it's seeping right into that instead of kind of seeping underneath the stencil. So it's either to your benefit or your downfall to use the Stark White cardstock, but I always encourage you when you get a new medium, test out different surfaces, find out what's gonna work for you or what you like the best, because that's gonna give you the best result then, and you kind of know then what cardstock to use. So then let me show you too how to do coloring. I stamped, oh here it is. I was gonna say I stamped something down beforehand and I lost it already. So I like to also use these for watercolors. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of, actually let's use a different color. Let me use a little purple. Let's go in with Royal Flush. Again, I'm gonna just shake it a little bit. When you're kind of in the middle of your project, you just wanna give it a little bit of a shake as you go in before with that next color. And then I'm gonna go in with some ink colors over here because we can't forget about our inks now. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Prom Queen, and then I'll go in with a little bit of Crown Me. And then I'll also go in, let's use some Shooting Star. And I'm just going to do some watercoloring. So then, instead of using water for this watercoloring, I'm gonna go right into that Royal Flush color and use that for watercolor. So it creates like a shimmery kind of effect then. I'm gonna go right onto my cardstock then and start blending this down. Gives that beautiful effect. Then I'll dip right into that pink color. And so the really interesting part about this is it should create mud, right? Because this is purple and this is and yellow, and purple and yellow will make mud. But because the mica inside of the spray is more of a solid and the ink is a liquid, it's not gonna mix together like normal colors would. And so you can totally use any sort of color shimmer that you want to on there. So if you want to do opposite, if you want to stay with the same color shimmer, that's up to you. But I'll show you once this is nice and dry, once we're done coloring it in, but it just gives the most beautiful effect for kind of a shimmery watercolor. So it's a brand new way to kind of use those too that you might not think of, but it gives such a great result in the end. I love it. So let me go in here, finish that watercolor, and then let me heat set this so you guys can see the mica really comes to life once it's dry. So if you're working on your project and you don't really see it come through, try drying your project and it's gonna be beautiful in the end. So there we go. It's that floral now and it's got that beautiful purple shine all throughout it. So it gives you a really iridescent, shiny look to your colors. But I love it because when you're looking straight on, you don't really see that color at all, or you don't really see the mica at all, you just see the color. And so it gives such a beautiful shifting effect to it, which I really appreciate. I also love the solar spray too, if you're just creating like a card and a background. So let's see, like even with something like this where we've got a background already created, I've done some shimmer spray on this too, but you can also just like finish off a card project, which I've been doing a lot lately. And once that card project is done, but maybe you want a little something else to it, maybe it's a bunch of florals on your background, I like to go in with the solar spray and I'll just go in from a higher distance and spray it above the surface. Then I'll go in and heat set that. And this, it doesn't cover the color at all because it's still that translucent spray, but it gives you all that amazing shimmer and shine. So it's gonna give you kind of a different look, and then when you spray it from above, it gives you a finer mist all throughout. So it's a really beautiful look, doesn't affect the colors at all, so you can finish off a card project and spray just a little bit above, and it'll give you such a beautiful kind of shimmer to finish off your project. So sometimes you kind of wonder, you know, where should I stop? I kind of feel like this card needs a little bit more, so I've been doing that a lot lately too, if it's like florals in the background, and it makes them beautiful with that finish. So that's all about my brand new solar sprays. Tons of ways to use them on the black and white cardstock to get completely different effects, and using them over top of inked backgrounds gives you such an amazing look. Awesome.
Thank you.